Hi and welcome to another episode of Experiencing IT. Today I'll be looking at how you can turn a cheap computer, like the one I have here, into a NAS server to share and back up your files. In this episode I will focus on installation and adding a shared folder. The goal of this project is to replace my old DNS320L NAS enclosure, as it is no longer getting updates. Also, it uses the old SMB1 protocol, which is no longer supported by Windows. And instead of buying a new enclosure, I've decided to try and build my own NAS server. So for this project, I'm using this cheap PC I got from eBay. This is a Lenovo ThinkCentre M78 with an AMD A4-6300B with 4 GB of RAM and 250 GB of disk. You can easily get one of these or similar for around $50 on eBay. Inside it doesn't have much space, but because I don't need a DVD drive, I will replace it with this Caddy that will allow me to expand later in the future. The hard drive that comes with it will be the boot drive. You could also use a thumb drive as your boot device, but as it requires additional configuration, I will leave that for another episode. Openmediavault does not let you use the boot drive as storage, so I will use also this 1TB hard drive I already had lying around. In the following episode, I will show you how to add more drives and how to set up RAIDs. If you'd like to follow this series, please consider subscribing and don't forget to activate the notifications by clicking on the bell button. So let's start with it. First of all, I will prepare the machine by installing the needed hardware. So, with all the needed parts installed, it is now time to prepare the USB drive to install Openmediavault. On the Openmediavault website at openmediavault.org, go to Download. Scroll down to the ISO section and click on the word Here. A new page will open. Just click on the big green download button to start downloading Openmediavault. While it downloads, and if you still don't have Rufus installed on your computer, open a new browser tab and download Rufus at rufus.ie. Scroll down to download and click on the latest version. I already have it installed, so I'll just open it from my computer as soon as Openmediavault finishes downloading. Okay, now with the Openmediavault image downloaded, let's open Rufus. I already have it open here on my desktop. Make sure you have the correct USB drive selected. As you can see, Rufus already picked up the correct one for me. Click on Select to browse for the Openmediavault image we've just downloaded. Select it, click Open, and now click Start for Rufus to burn the image to the USB. If you have this message showing up, just leave it as default and click on OK. Bear in mind that all data on the USB drive will be destroyed. Click on OK and let's wait for the process to finish. Okay, now that we have the image burned to the USB, it is time to boot our future NAS server with this USB drive. So, here I am now with the thumb drive plugged into my computer. Before I boot it up, I had to configure it to boot from USB. Since this is a little different from machine to machine, I will not cover it here, and you would have to refer to your computer's or motherboard's manual. Now, let's turn on the computer, and if all goes well, we are greeted with the Openmediavault boot menu. Once you have this screen, just hit enter. Choose your language and the region settings. I'll just leave mine as default. Okay, for the host name and for the domain name, I'll leave them both as default, as they can be changed later in the administration console. Choose and confirm your root password and hit enter to continue. For the time zone, again, I'll leave it as default, as I can change it later in the administration console. As you can see, Openmediavault has detected that we have more than one storage device plugged to our NAS server. We have here the first disk in the list, which will be the boot device, the second in the list, which will be the storage device, and the third in the list is the USB drive from which we've started the Openmediavault setup. What I have to do in my case is select the first device and press enter to install Openmediavault. Remember that all data in the device will be lost. If you are unsure, turn off the computer and unplug any hard drives except the one you would like to use for the operating system. Finally, confirm the changes by selecting yes and pressing enter. Once again, remember that all data that you might have on the disk will be destroyed. Select the Debian mirror that best fits your needs. I'll leave mine as default. And configure the proxy server if you have to. Okay, now, after restarting for the first time, and if you have a bunch of IP addresses that don't make much sense to you, give it another reboot by pressing Ctrl-Alt-Delete. Alright, this one makes more sense to me now. What we are going to do now is to navigate to this IP address, and if all goes well, we are presented with the Openmediavault login window. Okay, I'm going to log in now using the default username and password. What I want to do first is to update the system by going to Update Management and check for new updates. Let's select all updates and click on Install. If you run into this issue updating the system, just close this window, reboot and give it another try. Back at the main page, what I want to do next is to wipe the data disk. This drive was in use in another computer, so I want to do a complete wipe. For that, I'm going to Disks, I'm going to select the disk I want to wipe, which is the 1 TB disk I have here, and click on Wipe. I'll confirm that I want to perform the wipe, and I'll select Secure, which will write random data on the entirety of the disk. What I'm going to do next is to create a file system. For that, I'm going to File Systems, under the Storage menu, Notice that if you are using a disk already formatted with a file system, you'll have it listed here under Devices. Probably you just have to select it and click Mount. In my case, I'm going to click Create, select the device, which is my 1 TB hard drive, and give it a label. I'll just call it Storage. For the file system, I'll leave the default ext4. I'm going to confirm and wait for Openmediavault to create a file system. You could close this window, but I'll leave it open and wait. Now that the file system is created, you will see that a new device is listed, but not yet available to be used. To make it available, select the device and click Mount. Confirm that you want to apply the changes and confirm once again. We have now the device ready to be used. The next step is to create a shared folder. To create a shared folder, under the menu Access Rights Management, I'm going to click on Shared Folders. From here I'm gonna go ahead and click Add, and I'm gonna give it a name. I'll just call it Public. The device, obviously, the only one available. And for the permissions, for the purpose of this video, I'll give everyone full read-write permissions. I'm gonna save it, and I'm gonna apply the changes. The shared folder is now created. For this shared folder to be available to Windows users, I'll have to create a Samba shared folder. To set up the SMB shared folder, I'm gonna go ahead and click on SMB CIFS under the Services menu. Just before creating the shared folder, I'm gonna enable Samba and save. I'm gonna apply the changes and confirm. Now, on the Shares tab, I'm gonna click Add. I'm gonna select the shared folder, which is the one we created before, and I'm gonna set it to allow guests. There are several other options that you could tweak, but I'll leave them as default and click on Save. Once again, I'm gonna apply the changes and confirm. Before testing, make sure you have your computer's group policy configured to enable insecure guest logons as shown in this image, or you might get this error message. I am on a Windows 10 machine, version 1909. I don't know if the same would happen in previous version of Windows, but give it a try before changing anything. To learn how to configure this group policy, please check the instructions on the website on screen or click on the link in the description below. I believe this wouldn't be a problem if in Openmediavault we would have set up a username and a password to connect to the shared folder. Also, make sure you have network discovery enabled. Go to Windows Settings, Network and Internet, scroll down to Sharing Options, and make sure you have network discovery turned on and turn on file and printer sharing. So, with these two things out of the way, let's get on with it. Okay, with my computer open here, in the address bar I'll type //Openmediavault and press enter. A new view opened with the public shared folder created before. I'll open it and I'll try to create a new file. I'll just go ahead and try to create a new text document. Okay, looking good so far. I managed to create, edit and delete a file. Let's try copying something across. I'll try and copy these 3 Linux images, which combined have around 3 GB. Let's see how it goes. And that was not bad. 38 seconds for around 3 GB. It's a really good performance. So, I believe this ends our video. In the next video of the series I will show you how to add more drives to this setup and how to set up RAID. If you'd like to get notified, please consider subscribing and don't forget to activate the notifications by clicking on the bell button. Thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next video.